Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Gautam Roy. The United Kingdom is primed to go to polls on Thursday, with most pundits saying the results are a foregone conclusion. Barring the biggest of all surprises, 10 Downing Street is set to have a new occupant in the shape and form of Labour's Keir Starmer. The incumbent Rishi Sunak is headed out the door after calling the elections early, only to end the Conservatives' 14-year rule prematurely.
Thursday is when the world will find out who will be the new 650 members of the United Kingdom's House of Commons. Which party or alliance gets a majority of the seats? Whose leader will take the Prime Minister's chair? UK's parliamentary elections are widely forecast to oust the ruling Conservatives and Prime Minister Rishi Sunak from power after 14 years and hand Labour's Keir Starmer a brute majority on the back of an average 20 points lead in all opinion polls. So much so that it prompted former PM Boris Johnson to suddenly emerge from the woodwork on the penultimate day of campaigning to rally round support for Sunak, who was among the Conservatives who pulled the rug from under his feet. Bojo didn't really endorse Sunak, but warned voters of what a Labour government with brute strength in Britain's lower house would mean for the country.
Yet Labour are so cocky that they're so complacent, they're so smug, they're barely concealing their agenda anymore. And we can see what it is. Whacking up taxes on pensions, on property, persecuting private enterprise, attacking private education and private healthcare, with all the pointless extra burden that will place on the taxpayer.
Sunak seemed grateful for Johnson's support and appealed to British voters once again to stop Labour's impending landslide win.
Now, Boris is right to say now is the time for all Conservatives to come together to deny Labour that supermajority that Keir Starmer craves. We have 48 hours to save Britain from the danger of a Labour government.
But the Labour top leader came right back at Sunak and Johnson while campaigning in Wales on Wednesday, saying Sunak's move to bank on Johnson's backing was a sign of desperation.
I've been arguing that the last 14 years have been about chaos and division, and last night they wheeled out the architect of chaos and division. So I think that just shows the sort of desperate negative place they've got to in their campaign. I'm proud, by contrast, that our campaign from start to finish has been positive, has been confident, and has been about the change that we need in our country.
Liberal Democrat leader Ed Davey carried on with his offbeat campaigning capers on Wednesday. Following his water sport and bungee jumping adventures, he got behind the steering of a tractor in a race across a field in southwest England, where he hopes to make gains against the Conservatives. Even British far-right Brexiter Nigel Farage is fancying his chances, with hopes of opening his Reform UK Party's account in the Commons to challenge traditional parties in a similar way to France's National Rally. How will the UK vote? Polls will open at 7 a.m. local time on Thursday. Polling will go on till 10 p.m. local time. Britons can cast a vote in each of the nation's 650 seats to choose an MP. The halfway mark of 326 is the magic number. MPs of the parties getting a simple majority will choose their leader. The leaders of the majority party in UK's House becomes PM. No single party majority means looking for outside support or forming an alliance government. Theresa May headed a minority government in 2017 after a close result. David Cameron formed a coalition after the 2010 election. While Britain votes, the media is barred from talking about anything which could influence the process. But the moment polling closes, exit polls will drop, and historically, unlike India, they've been very accurate. The actual votes will be counted throughout Thursday night, and the results could be out as early as 3 a.m. local time on Friday, if there are no cliffhanger contests. Bureau Report, DD India.
Let's get you some more on this with DD India's Ollie Barrett joining us from London. Hello there, Ollie. Despite the odds heavily stacked against them, the Conservatives like Rishi Sunak and Boris Johnson have been fighting on to beat anti-incumbency and Labour's policy counterpunches that prospect of a supermajority. But are they in a dwindling minority even among the Tories themselves?
There certainly have been growing Conservative voices in recent days coming out and saying publicly that they feel that they've lost the election, that all hope is effectively gone. That has led Rishi Sunak on several occasions himself to have to deny that that is where he finds himself and where he feels the party is, insisting that the Conservatives can continue to campaign and still stand a chance of avoiding that Labour majority, a large majority in the House of Commons behind me, that the Conservatives are warning against. But privately, even many of those Conservatives who won't say it publicly, won't say it out loud, do seem to acknowledge that this election is one that, barring a miracle, they have lost.
And what about Keir Starmer himself and the Labour Party? I wouldn't blame them if they've been a little smug of late, but can this election also be more than a two-horse race?
Certainly, Keir Starmer has been insisting throughout this election period, because the polls have been so healthy for Labour, that Labour must not be complacent, and he's been insisting that right up until the last minute. One of the reasons for doing so is that they don't want Labour voters or potential Labour voters to stay at home on Thursday because they feel that this election race is all over. So he's been trying to avoid that. Reform UK may well return one or two or a handful more MPs to Parliament behind me, but even if they do get a significant chunk of the polls, they won't be getting many more than that. The Liberal Democrats hope to bounce back in a significant way from the last election.
All right. Well, let's see what happens. Not too long to go now, and we'll know pretty soon after the polls close as to which way is the wind blowing. Thanks a lot for joining us for the moment, Ollie Barrett.